Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Welcome back to the Since I Was Young podcast, episode 7. It is season review time. We are finally at the end of this wretched season. We've said in quite a few of the podcast episodes that we're quite happy that this season has ended, but just out of sort of an episode for the podcast, we're going to do a review of what's happened, what's gone on, and how we feel in general about the season itself in a bit more detail. Joining you as always is myself, Ewan, and Alan. Alan, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, sir. I'm very well. How are you doing today?
Oh, not too bad, mate. Well, I just told you earlier on that I was out in the charity shops earlier on, and I managed to bag myself this wee classic right here. Like a wee, was it £5 only cost me, and mate, you can't put a price on history, so I thought it was an alright wee buy. So I pretty happy.
Absolutely.
And it was, and we've aptly sort of matched as well for wearing the polo shirts as well, mate. We're moving up in the world, professional as ever. I love it, mate. I love it. So yes, as always, guys. If you are new to the podcast, we are Since I Was Young. Everything all heart of Midlothian for the latest news, debates, and topics. If you do enjoy this episode, please think about subscribing. And if you do enjoy the episode itself, smash that like button. And if you want to get involved with any sort of chit chat, you can. The link to our Twitter page is in the description, as always, and on screen, as I'm sure that you can see. And if you want to get in touch with us personally, you also can as well. Alan's personal Twitter is in the description, as well as my YouTube channel, What Ewan's Doing. Right, so just a disclaimer before we start. To all that were angered who follow our Twitter page about a certain Ross Stewart and a certain someone being kind of happy about that, I would just like to put the disclaimer out there. It wasn't me. And also apologies to everyone who took offence to that tweet, but you can blame the man on the left side of the screen. Alan, what do you have to say for yourself, sir?
Well, I suppose that's a way to jump into the news, isn't it? We'll start with that. Actually.
Yeah,
Ross
why not?
Stewart has, signed a 2-year contract, and while we're throwing disclaimers about, I'll throw a little one out there that I didn't realise it was a 2-year deal when I first read the news. Do you know what it was? It was what I felt was just an overreaction to the fact that we signed a backup goalkeeper. Like, I get it. He's not everybody's cup of tea, and the performances he's put in haven't been fantastic, let's be honest. But I just felt like I'd messaged you about it as well. And I mean, I say I ruffled a few feathers on Twitter. I think they were suitably smoothed over, shall we say, after a little conversation when I realised it was a 2-year deal, and everybody was kind of right to be a bit annoyed about that. But no, I'd messaged you before when it was announced, and I says, I don't understand why people are so unhappy about this. I think for a backup goalkeeper, you've got to be happy to sit on the bench, and ultimately that's what Ross Stewart's going to do. Like, let's be honest, he's not going to be the number one. Even 2 years, he's been given a 2-year deal. He will never be Hearts number one. Like, there's no doubt that he won't. Like, and I know the way that the club announced it, they said, Robbie Nielsen said something along the lines of, he's a nice guy and he's well liked around the team. And I think that kind of caught a few people off, and they're like, is that why we're signing him then? But I just felt it was a bit, social media is a bit mad anyway, but it kind of went a bit crazy when it was announced.
Yeah, no. I mean, don't get me wrong. When you text me and then when you told me your reasons why you're not like overly angry about it, like I do to get it. Yeah, he's never going to be a Hearts number one, but at the same time, if you're going to be put into action, if say Craig Gordon was to get injured as such, you want to feel as if you have got a relatively safe pair of hands, which is where my sort of doubts come into play. Where like I just don't think he is, considering that he was the Livingston fourth choice, not even second or third, fourth choice, and his stats go against him quite badly as well. Like, you know what? That's in 3 games he's played in 8 goals conceded. Like, obviously, I know, you know, it's not overly down to him as such, like, you know, because the team as well has got a part to play. But at the same time, he just didn't look comfortable. He didn't look stable in any of those games as well. And I was kind of on the minority that I'm not overly happy. And this was kind of an opportunity for Robbie to kind of, like, you know, put some sorted out, not all of it, but with that first official signing, he could have like you made a sort of statement saying, right, you know, I've heard what everybody's saying, so this is what we're doing. Ross cheesy fucking Stewart. It's not exactly the greatest start to it, but you know, the only kind of saving grace is that he is only, like, you know, the backup. So I guess it's not as bad as it could be as such. But, like, you know, but just to, like, sort of wrap off that tiny bit of news, well, you did redeem yourself, and I will have your back on this. So as not all of a lot of the people know, it was unfortunately my 30th birthday a few weeks ago, and this very kind gentleman here gave me the only one in the world right now, this since I was young mug, and just everything just tastes so much better out of that, honestly. And so I know I've said to you in the person, but I will say in front of the entire world, thank you very much, sir. Greatly appreciate it, my man.
Aye, no bother at all, no bother at all. It's a, like you say, one of a kind piece of merchandise there, eh? So I might get myself one though, to be fair. I might have to get myself one because I was a wee bit jealous ordering it.
It's all good, man.
And just onto the next bit of news, actually. It broke. It was quite interesting because the last episode we recorded, obviously we put out on the Tuesday after the social media blackout. And then later on that day, it was announced that Shea Logan was not going to be offered a new contract for this coming season.
Yeah.
Robbie giving his reasons, saying that he wanted to reduce the average age within the squad, which, you know, I can applaud him for that. But obviously, we'll have to wait and see who the alternative is that he brings in, because obviously that sounds as if he's going to look to bring somebody in. We said it before about Shea Logan, and I made my feelings quite clear about him. I thought, you know, he did enough in the games that he played to show that he could have had a deal. But equally, the other side of it, I'm kind of like, oh, take him or leave him, essentially. It was the way that I looked at it. And yeah, it's I don't think he'll have any problem finding another club, put it that way, because his contract at Aberdeen runs out at the end of the season. So I think there'll be, if not a Premiership team, certainly a Championship, maybe a top end of the Championship team will come in for him.
Most definitely.
Yeah, not too bad for 5 games though. But anyway, it is what it is. It's just another player that's away at the door. And there was another one today as well. I feel like all I do in these news things is talk about players that are leaving.
And for good the reason, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, I want Robbie to hurry up and sign some players so I can actually talk about them instead. The latest one today is Freer. He's not going to be offered a new contract either.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't really do enough today. He wasn't exciting. He wasn't really, just didn't do really anything on that wing that he was supposed to be playing. But
I'll be quite frank, mate. I'll be quite black and white. He did fuck all. Like, I know that sounds quite harsh, but like, no, he did.
No, you're right. No, you're right. And I mean, I think my main concern about this is not that we're letting players go, because you have to. And I think Freer only had a 1-year contract anyway.
Yeah.
But the problem I have with it is that we're just letting people go for nothing. And it's like, as much as, like, I know at the start of the season he signed these players to get us out the Championship, and I get that. But Freer didn't even play well in the Championship. Like, it's different. Like, it's different for like a Shea Logan, for example. I know he only played 5 games, but Shea Logan did enough to show that he could play in the Premier League. So if he was given another contract, you go, yeah, that's a good decision. But Freer just did absolutely nothing to show what he's capable of, and it's one of those, we're letting another player go for nothing. I'm not saying he would have been on a huge wage, because he wouldn't have been, but it's almost like, well, we just kind of wasted a year, and you're like, it's frustrating seeing players leave that, but equally he wasn't good enough. So I'm pleased that he's away.
You and me both.
Cleaning house a little bit. Yeah, cleaning house a little bit on that one. So that's a positive sign, I suppose. And it's just, it all builds up to who we're going to bring in at the end of the day. That's what you have to look at.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's not anything like Ross Stewart, then I'll be relatively happy. But like I said, we just got to wait and see who we bring in. I know we've been linked with quite a lot of players for the last few months, but again, it's kind of just a waiting game and see, because I would expect a few more players to head for the exit door. Who that may be, I'm not sure, but I'm almost certain that there will be players still on the way out as well. But equally as well, I hope that we do keep some key players as well. And we will go into a bit more detail about that. We're planning for the next episode to do sort of a squad review as such. We were going to include it in this, but we would probably spend the next the week or so, and we don't want to bore you all, so we'll just keep it to the season as such. So thank you for the new segment, Alan. So we're going to move on to the main topic of the season review. Absolute pish is what I would call that. I mean, we could probably wrap up the episode now, but yeah, it's I totally get that we were only set out to do one main thing, and we've achieved that, but we've made it incredibly hard for ourselves, and they've equally made it twice as hard for the Hearts fans to actually watch as well. I think obviously the goal has been accomplished, but at the same time we've done it in the most difficult way possible. Obviously, I think a big part of that was the squad rotation as such. Constantly sort of changing players out of their sort of position as such. Constantly changing sort of formation as well, to the point where we kind of looked like we didn't. Well, sort of the team itself didn't know what they were doing as such. I'm mainly talking about the first half of the season. It was just hard to watch. And obviously throughout this season we suffered our worst defeat ever in the history of the club. So that still doesn't really fit well with us, and I would say most of the Hearts fans as well. Which I think in retrospect, I've said quite a few episodes ago. I'm still willing to give Robbie the benefit of the doubt. Luke, he said, came in, he's made some horrid results, but he's done what he's asked to do. But I think that's something that will stick with him and kind of have a bit of stigma around, being known as the manager that has caused the worst defeat in any club sort of history. It's not exactly gonna go away, but I would say it's been a very average season, but I don't think it's been one of our best by any means.
No, I think like you say, it's a difficult one to follow, because obviously we shouldn't have been in the Championship. I think every fan has said we shouldn't have been in the Championship. There's probably quite a few players in the dressing room that have said we shouldn't be in the Championship. But ultimately we were there, and Robbie was brought in because of his Championship experience. There's no doubt about that. Obviously got us promoted before, got Dundee United promoted before, so he knows the league. And people people say, oh, we've not played well, and I've said it multiple times myself because we haven't this season. But ultimately, it's like you yourself said, his objective was to get us promoted, and he's done that. It wasn't good to watch. It wasn't entertaining. It was dull. Probably some of that does come down to the opposition teams and the way that they played against us as well, to be fair. But I think the only way that I could say this season's been a success is if you take the cups out of it.
Yeah,
like you say, losing to Brora is embarrassing by any standards. And then obviously we lost to Alloa in the Betfred as well. So, there's 2 cup defeats there that should not happen. They should not have happened. And it's not been a good season. Like, if you could sum up the season in one word, it would just be underwhelming for me. Like, there's no, and I think I said it to you, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but trying to pick out highlights from the season or games where we've played really well for 90 minutes, it's very, very difficult to do.
There's not a lot of them, though.
I know, and it's just, that's what's frustrating. I mean, the Championship, like Robbie came out not long ago saying, oh, it's a difficult league to get out of, and they said it in their statement about lifting the cup and all this. And there's probably an element of truth to that because it's not easy, but we made it, like you've just said, we made it so much harder for ourselves than it really needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of that does lie at the players as well, because I think there was maybe some players that this season haven't performed as well as they can. And I think, I mean, like you said, we'll go into a squad review next week, but I'd put players like Michael Smith in that category. I think he's had a decent season, but I think he could have been a hell of a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those, maybe he just thought, oh, it's only the Championship. I don't have to get out of first year to, win this. And that for me is a problem. But, we're out the Championship and hopefully never to return ever again. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, no, Alan, of course. I mean, I know we've not got it on our list as we go on, but one of the most annoying things about this entire was at the campaign, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that I found just unbelievably annoying is if we've been defeated or we played bad on any sort of match, there's never been an owning up as such from Robbie. Not from one post-match interview have I heard him say, yeah, I got it wrong, blah, 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 blah. I didn't do this right, I didn't do that. I can understand Robbie's the character, but at the same time, you just know that he's going to look for any excuse so that the buck doesn't stop at his feet. And that is something that annoys me with any manager, because ultimately, I know that the players and the coaches kind of compliment, with one another, but at the same time, when the players have let the team down. Now, it's not been all the players' fault. Yeah, of course there have been the players on the team that have underperformed massively, absolutely. But at the same time, any manager that knows he gets it wrong, he comes out and says it. Now, like I said, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Robbie has not came out once and said, yeah, I didn't get this right, I didn't get that right. And I know he won't change, but at the same time, it just really annoys me, because that's part of the anger from the Hearts fans there as well, because there's no accountability for what we are seeing. And yet he fails to see, well, sorry, I say that he fails to see it, but we know that he sees it. But when was it? I mean, the one game that kind of stands out was in the Championship away to Alloa. Now, I understand, was it at where it is, it's not the best place to actually play. But one of the reasons was it was a very windy day. I don't care who you are. I'd play the fucking game. I'm sorry. Use the wind.
No.
Fucking
It is. it's ridiculous. And I mean, I think like I totally agree with you. And when he's coming out with stuff like, oh, it's windy and the surface isn't good for playing football, and all this stuff, and you sort of, I'd love to just grab him by the shoulders and go, you do know both teams just played on that pitch, both teams
Precisely,
just played
Alan.
in that weather. Like that's but I mean, and then he's forever blaming referees, and you just get to the point where you're just like, just get on with it. Like, fix it. Like, the performance wasn't good enough. Fix it next week. Fix it next week. Stop with the excuses. Like, we go away, like you say, to places like Alloa, and just are absolutely dire. And you just think, right, next week will be better. Surely the manager sees that. Next week they have to respond. There has to be. Even after the Brora game, it's like, you'll see a response. You'll see a response. The players are fired up, and then the next game we lose. And you're like, well, where's the response? Where's the attitude that you want? But that's a management thing and a players thing, I think, as well. But yeah, no, this season, as I say, just to sum it up, just underwhelming for me.
Yeah,
in all accounts.
Yeah, no, I think. I mean, you've said it in a relatively adult way of saying it's been underwhelming. Me, being fucking shite. I'm sorry. That's the only word that I can kind of sum it up. I mean, again, like just to touch on that, because you mentioned, was it the Brora game? Like and I said this in the video that I did on my own channel after that game. The credit undeniably went to Brora Rangers. They wanted it. We showed up, and that again for any team. They showed up expecting to breeze it. Now, there's a difference between the confidence and their arrogance as well. Now, we showed up there arrogantly, thinking, right, this team's is non-league. They've not played for the best part of 2-3 months, expecting just to stroll it, and that was something that annoyed me. And again, like you said, Alan, no accountability whatsoever on that pitch. Every single player for the Brora Rangers was out there playing for their shirt, their team, their hearts. No response whatsoever. And
no.
Robbie's going to have to work extremely hard, and I mean extremely hard, to try and win fans back. Because, like we said in the last episode, hopefully when fans are back in, he's not going to be able to escape that, and as well, just touching that, and the Budge as well. She's not going to escape the fact that she'll hear everything. They can't exactly. So it's going to be an interesting campaign next year, and I think in general for the league next year, I think it's going to be a very competitive league. Obviously, a lot more teams since we've been absent throughout this campaign. I think you've seen a lot more sort of competitiveness. You've seen a lot more teams actually playing better. Just to name a few, apart from Celtic and Rangers, of course. Obviously, you've got as much as it pains me to say it, Hibs have been playing extremely well. You've also got St Johnstone, who we've talked about quite a lot as well. Livingston have had quite a decent run this year. St Mirren as well, going from 10th last season to the top half of the table. Are they in the top 6? I
think so. I've not actually looked at it.
Well, I'll to correct myself just now, but besides that, it's been a very. I mean, I know that there's still a few games to actually go as well, and it's I mean, especially for the relegation battle as well with Hamilton and Killie and County as well. But I think next season it's going to be a good league, again in the next season, and with Rangers being champions as well. Obviously, Celtic are gonna have to turn up the gas as well, and then primarily we've got to show up as well. So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. Sorry, I am talking out of my arse. So Mirren are actually 8th. So I'm talking out my arse.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, it's a minute. They went on a decent little run of results I think it was a couple of months ago where they were picking up good results. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's like you said there, it's going to be a very, very interesting season next year. With the Old Firm, Hibs, Aberdeen, St Johnstone. There's a lot of strong sides that currently, on paper, are better than us.
Yeah.
And we might be bigger clubs than St Johnstone, Livingston, Hibs, Aberdeen, etc. Because we are bigger than them, let's be honest.
Mhm.
And I'll include Hibs in that. But currently, right now, they're all better than us. So it's up to Joe Savage and his little black book to get the recruitment right, and hope that we get some players in that will make a difference. Because I mean, we'll say it probably in a future episode of this, but the spine of the team that we have is quite good.
Yeah.
Gordon, Suter, Haring, Boyce, like that's a good spine of the team. And if you can add quality to that, then there's no reason we can't be up there with them. But it needs to be, we need to get it right. And I mean, again, I'm not going to ramble on about it, but if we somehow don't manage to finish top six, or if we're not top six by Christmas, then Robbie will go. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, because I mean, I know we've got to kind of be realistic about it, but even when our main objective from Robbie was to make top six, even that annoyed me. Like, like, if we've got the mentality of a big, was it at the club, Alan? Then we've got to start acting and talking like a big club. Like,
Yeah.
For me personally, and I know it would be a big ask, especially from the way that we played this campaign, but fourth would be a minimum for me because that's where we should be, Alan. I don't care what.
Yeah. No,
I don't because we've said it countless times. I don't care who you are, right? And obviously, if this is the case, a packed out Tiny, we can beat anybody on our day, and I mean anybody.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's mad, and I mean we're slightly going off topic, but I think
that's what we do, Alan.
It's fine. It is. I would accept finishing fifth or sixth if we were within 4 or 5 points of third. If it was a close run thing and we'd made it, we'd pushed it as far as we could, then I'd say, okay, do you know what? We finished in the top six. We were close to finishing in third place or fourth place. But if there's a gap that's large, then that's a problem. Like, we've got the third biggest budget in the league behind only Celtic and Rangers. Like, fans pump millions in every year, and I know those millions don't go directly to player recruitment stuff, but a percentage of it will. We've said it before. You have to expect something back from that.
Absolutely, Alan. So you have heard it here first, guys. Alan predicts that we'll finish fifth or sixth. Oh, I am expecting some more mean tweets from the Other Hearts podcast. So just to say,
that's not
disclaimer. I'm not involved in this. I am the nice guy of the podcast. So please do not involve me if you send your mean tweets my way. Anyhow,
that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. You're putting words in my mouth. Yeah, putting words in my mouth. Leave it for the predictions podcast that we'll do in a few weeks.
We will.
Once we've signed a team full of Pelés, I'll change my mind.
Keep dreaming, mate. But it's all good. So yeah, I don't think there's much to sort of talk about in terms of what we've seen throughout the campaign, in terms of the manager, the team, etc. So we've written down a few topics for you guys, and obviously at the end, when you've heard what we've talked about, we'd love to hear your comments as well and your picks for our sort of notes here. So we're going to be going through these topics here. So we've got goal of the season, we've got player of the season, save of the season, and moment of the season. Obviously, I had to dig deep on that one, but I did have one. So yeah, we're gonna kick off with goal of the season. So Alan, you can kind of start us off on that one, if you please, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a top three. I had a little look back at some of them, but I'll start. I'll give you the first one, and then we'll probably have quite similar thoughts, I would think. My first one was the Stephen Naismith half volley against Queen of the South.
Oh,
the game
yeah.
that we won. From sort of diagonal edge of the box, he just ball got played into him, and he touched it down and smashed it in the back of the net across the goalkeeper.
It was quite a decent goal, like I will admit. Yeah.
Again, it's the game was tight at that point, and he's pulled out the bag. So yeah, that for me, that was in my top three. That was number 3 for me.
Well, I'll be very honest, and again, it might sound harsh. I've only picked one. So what I'll do is honestly, no. In terms of wow, that was quality. I've genuinely only picked one. Like, the Naismith goal was great by all accounts, but I just think in terms of vision and technique, I think this one was slightly better. But what I'll do, if you want to say the rest of your the goals, and then I'll say mine's at the end, and then we'll see if that goal is in your list as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So then my other goal was Liam Boyce back heel flick again against. It was against Cali Thistle. I think it was the second goal. I can't remember what the full-time score was, but the ball sort of come into him in the box, and he kind of flicked it like between his legs, back heeled it past the goalkeeper. I thought that was a bit cracking, to be honest.
Was that meant though? Was it meant? Let's be real.
It's Boise. It's Boise. Of course it was.
Council estate dad. Do you think that was real? I mean,
he knew exactly what he was doing.
Or are you thinking that in his own mind at that moment in time, he maybe thought that it was a council tax building? He thought, oh shit, fuck off, and then
maybe. I thought it was a cracking bit of technique.
No, it was.
He might not have meant it, but no, it was just a lovely wee back. I love goals like that. So, like, you see them sometimes in like the Premier League down south and stuff. You see them and you just think, like you think, did he mean that? But yeah, it was a cracking little bit of technique from Boise.
No, that's fair news. But we'll see if we have the same goal as you have for your last one. So
my number 1 goal of the season actually came on the first day of the season. I've gone Stephen Kingsley's free kick.
Yes, well done, sir. That is literally what I've got right here as well. It was utterly, like, it was struck sweetly, and it was a belt of a goal, because it was the second goal that put us 2-0 before halftime. Was that right? Or
no, I think it was the 4th, because he got them
already.
later.
Oh Christ!
Sorry, 2. The second one was pretty good as well, but
it was actually.
No,
to be fair.
I remember that free kick, and I remembered it even before I watched all the goals back, because I was sitting watching the game with my family at home, and when Stephen Kingsley put the ball down, I actually turned to my family and I says, "He's scoring this. He knows what he's doing." He just looked so confident, and like, I mean, Hearts don't score free kicks. We don't. We're not good at set pieces, corners as well. Like, we're terrible at them. We've not had a good delivery for a long time.
Yeah.
But Kingsley he had this bit of confidence about him, and you could just tell he was looking at it and he was like, I'm hitting this. And it was, like you said, just the technique in it was unbelievable. And it just went top corner, and you're like, for the guy's debut as well, like, I complain about that.
Absolutely not, Alan. But yeah, you've forget to kind of taking the words out of my mouth. Like I said, it was such a sweetly struck shot, and like you said as well, to score 2 goals on your debut from left back as well, like, it was a pretty impressive debut. So yeah, like, I mean, that's my goal of the season. But for yourself, out of those 3, which one would you say that is the one that kind of sticks out the most?
I'd probably go for the Kingsley one, to be honest.
Lad.
I'd probably go for the Kingsley. I thought it was, just class. And like that, for that to be the first impression of a new player, you're like, oh, we might be onto something here.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, it was. I mean, that game we actually played all right that time, and then it's just sadly went downhill from there. But no. So yeah, I think that can conclude our the goal of the season. Stephen Kingsley against Dundee, first game of the season where we beat them 6-2. Player of the season. You and me briefly talked about this when we saw each other on Sunday. I think we got it down to 2 players. Like, I don't think you could say anybody in that team apart from these 2 players have sort of merited that sort of that role into being player of the season. But if I'm right in saying, we both agreed it was a toss up between the Boyce and the Gordon. So I'm gonna give who I think, and I'll explain why. I think you've got to give it to Craig the Gordon. From my point of view, are we fucking shrug there, Ellen? Are we shrug? Debate. Let's have it right now. So, no. And to be fair, it's only down to one thing. From the Boyce himself, I think he's ended the season incredibly strong. He scored 14 goals, which out of 28 games average like a goal every 2 games, which is it's not bad at all. I think again I've mentioned this in quite a few episodes, Alan. I think especially at the start of the season I was extremely critical about the more simpler chances that he had in front of goal and how he didn't had to put them away. Just as we talked about there, an example against Dundee, the luckiest man on the park where he literally hit it, he slipped, and he managed to get himself a penalty out of that. Like, you know what I mean? It's things like that, like, because that ball was going fucking away, and he still had managed to get like a penalty. But I will say, from my point of view, I think that's been his only sort of fault as such. I think coming in halfway to the season, I think he did start to put all sorts of chances away. Was it easy or hard? He scored quite a few crackers this season, and I think when it comes to a strike sort of force as such for next campaign, I think Robbie will hopefully want to kind of work at the players around him. But yeah, so that was probably my main reason why I've swayed to Craig Gordon as I move on to him, because you cannot deny. I genuinely think, and I might take heaps of shite for this, but I genuinely think that if it wasn't for Craig Gordon this season, we probably would have been fighting for the championship title on the last day of the season. I can almost guarantee that he's probably saved us about 10 the points this campaign.
Probably.
And we've said it quite a lot. For a 37 or 38-year-old?
38 now, 38-year-old.
He still looks like he's playing as if he was 21. Some of the saves that he's still making, even now, unbelievable. Unbelievable,
Mm-hmm.
The fact, the only good thing that's the only good thing that Celtic done all of their the campaign was to let him go. And if he keeps playing the way that he is, and he keeps making the saves that he is as well, again, I'm pretty sure you said in the last episode as well, I reckon you could probably get 2, maybe 3 the campaigns left in him. Just another example. You've seen how well Alan McGregor has played for Rangers, and he's at 39, and yet he signed 1 year contract extension for Rangers as well. So like, you know what I mean? Like, if he can do it, why can't he? So I don't think there's much else to say on it, but yeah, that's why I think Eddie Gordon is my player of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I'll make the case for Liam Boyce just because you know how much I like Liam Boyce.
Yes, Allenton, get angry. Throw those anger points at me. Go on, son. Go on.
No, what I will say, right, before I start and before I go into it, I do think that Craig Gordon will win it. I do think that Craig Gordon will be player of the season.
And you will be
because
right, yes.
I think it's very, very difficult to look beyond Craig Gordon, and for all the reasons that you've said, I actually looked it up, a wee stat as well. Now, I know obviously it's been a shorter season in the Championship this year, but last season we had 3 different goalkeepers, which were Colin Doyle, Bobby Lamal, and he who shall not be named Manchester United superstar.
Leave that shite out of here, right?
Superstar used very, very loosely. And between the 3 of them, over 39 games, they kept 8 clean sheets. Craig Gordon has played 31 games this season with 15 clean sheets. So
safe hands, sir. Safe hands.
He is. And I think a large part of why he'll be the player of the season is because people will look at that and go, well, look at what he was replacing. Like, he's come in and just, it's like he's never been away. Like, he's unbelievable. And he plays for the badge. He knows what Hearts means. He's a Hearts lad and all that. And look, I have so much love for Craig Gordon. He's absolutely unbelievable, and we're lucky to have him. But I think as well, we're lucky to have Liam Boyce as well. To be honest, I would not have been surprised if at the end of the season last year, when we'd been relegated, he would have been one of the players that went, I want to go and play in the Championship. Nah, I could go play somewhere else. But you know, he's come in and, like you said, 14 goals. He's actually had 14 goals and 6 assists, so 20 goal involvements across the season. And I think as well, and I've said it many, many times when we've done these, and Boyce has either been involved in a goal or scored a goal. His link-up play and his ability to just make things tick around him has been amazing. Like, he's not the penalty box finisher that everybody thought he was going to be when he came to Hearts, and I think that's probably why a lot of fans are maybe underwhelmed by him, because they just think he's done all right. He scored a few goals, but he could have got more because of, like, when he played at Ross County and when he played at Burton down south as well. He scored a lot of goals for them, but we've got a Liam Boyce who's older, who's a bit more experienced, and he's maybe not as mobile as he could be. I'll say that about him, but the intelligence and the way that he plays the game, I'm just like, you know what, this boy he's just a top class player. And I know you say, like, where would we be without Craig Gordon in goals, but where would we be without Liam Boyce? Like, who gets the goals in this Hearts team if it's not Liam Boyce leading the line? Because while he's scoring goals, even when he's not scoring, he's creating space, or he's playing the ball to players that are scoring. So if you took out Liam Boyce, who'd you put in? Stephen Naismith? Maybe. Would Stephen Naismith have scored as many goals as Liam Boyce? It's a difficult one. It really is. But I'll defend Liam Boyce to the day that he's finished at Hearts, because I just think he's a very, very good football player. And I think next season, like you say, if Robbie wants to, and he should, he needs to build that attacking line again around Liam Boyce and get players around them that will link up with him and play well, because that's how we'll win games next season.
Yeah. So from that, are you making a case for Liam Boyce being, well, your player of the season then?
He is, yeah. Liam Boyce is my player of the season.
Brilliant. We want debate on the Twitter. We're going to most likely put that up onto our page then. We'll have ourselves, a vote from all you guys that do to follow us on the Twitter page. And as I said before, if you have anything nice to say, throw your comments my way. If you have anything negative to say, throw it to Alan, and he will deal with that promptly. So yeah, Interesting. Was it at the point? So, but I do take on board what you actually say, and we both said it as well. I think for next season, I think if you try and build a bit of a strike force around was it at the boys, because again, I mean, even saying that as well, obviously, from my point of view, I'm not expecting the big Nan to be a regular star. I don't think he's going to be the main sort of the focal point of that strike partnership. If Gary Mackay-Stevens keeps to a consistent, was it performance rate, I won't have any sort of problem with him starting. But if we're to maybe get a striker in that, like you said, maybe has a bit more ability about him, and that's maybe got a bit more pace on about him, then to have that with the skill of Gary Mackay-Stevens and the intelligence play as such from the boys, then I don't see how you could go wrong as such. It will, but I mean, on paper, I don't see how it can. But like we said before, we just have to wait and see,
Yeah, I mean, just a quick one on that before we move on to the next, shall we say, award. I think Ewan Henderson could be quite a decent little option next season if he stays and doesn't get loaned out. I was reading,
because that was only going to be my sort of only concern about that. My thing is, I don't know. I can just see it at the coming. I think Robbie will be tempted to loan him out. I don't know why I think that. I just do. I don't want him to, because I think he's quite a young, exciting prospect, and I think up against the better squads, I think that'll drive him to actually be better. But at the same time, I've just got a funny feeling that he won't include him in his plans next season.
The thing is, like, I read a story during the week, and it was Ewan Henderson saying he's only going to take a week off for summer, and then he's agreed to go back into the go back to the Oriam and work. I think he said 3 days a week with the fitness team and keep himself ticking over ahead of a new season, because he's obviously been given a chance at the end of the season where he's played games and he scored goals. We spoke about them in the previous episodes that we did, and he obviously wants to make the most of that chance he's been given and take that momentum forward and say, well, I was in the team at the end of last season and I want to stay in it. And I think like you, I've got a feeling Robbie might loan him out, but I wouldn't have a problem with that, providing we bring in someone that's good enough right now. If he's going to loan out Ewan Henderson, that's not a problem for me, as long as we have a striker in that is maybe older than Ewan Henderson and a bit more complete. If Ewan Henderson needs a full season of playing games, realistically, he's not going to get that for Hearts playing in the Premier League.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's an interesting one, but I want to point out as well about the Player of the Season thing. I 100% believe that the official, the club official award will go to Craig Gordon, but I just feel like, for me personally, Boise is going to be second choice anyway.
Oh yeah, no, that would be my second choice as well. I just think, when Craig Gordon has to be called in to action, and granted, he's not. I'm not saying that every single game he's been amazing, but I just think for the age that he's at now, and for how many saves he's made, and he has single-handedly saved us, was it at points as well? That can't be overlooked. But you know what I mean? But at the same time as well, the Boyce, I'd say, if you're talking from an outfield perspective, I'd say he's been maybe the most consistent player. But again, it just falls down to the missed sort of opportunities at the start of the season, where you just feel it could have just been slotted home. But hopefully for next season, if he can improve on his goal scoring record, then there's always something else to aim for. So, but yeah, we will put that that post onto our Twitter page, and we would love to hear your guys' the comments and what you have to say about it. So moving on, we've got save of the season. There was only one save that kind of stuck out in my mind, Alan. But since I started the last one, I will let you have the floor on this one.
Do you know what? I'm going to pass it back to you.
Oh, really?
I've got two. I've got two.
Christ.
And I want to see if yours is one of my two.
Honestly,
in which
Alan,
case I'll just remove it and we'll go with that.
every time we had planned this, right? Okay, we have a goal of the season, we have a save of the season. I had one down, and then it gets tossed back to you. Oh, I've got 10. So aye.
It's Craig. They made a lot. Let's be honest, they made a lot of good saves.
That is quite true. That's quite true. Yeah. But yeah, the one that sticks out in my mind was the first half of the semi-final against Hibs, and pretty sure it was either Christian Doidge or Nesbitt, and it was relatively early in the first half as well, and it was the header. Again, it was either by Doidge or Nesbitt, and like I said before, we talked about like sort of more ability with the boys. Mate, that boy must have an extendable arm or something. Like the reactions alone and the reflexes of that save. Like he hasn't missed a step, that boy. It was because you might have felt the same as soon as that ball came in, and which Hibs player it was. They were free in that space, and you automatically knew even before he headed that shot. You thought, oh, that's was it 1-0 Hibs. It was a world class save. I'm going to put it out there. It was a world class save. Obviously, it wasn't too. It was a world. Was it class teams as such? But the save itself was just mind blowing. And like I said again, I think you can maybe see that he had a massive part to actually play in the reason how he got us to the final as well. It was an incredible save. Incredible save.
Definitely. It was actually that one, the one that you're talking about wasn't his, but Doige had one as well in the second half, I think. So they both had really like similar chances, to be fair. I think they were both even headers.
Yeah.
And they were both very similar. But yeah, the Nisbet one was on my list. Yeah, I mean, it's
what can you say?
And this is what I love. This is what I love about Craig Gordon, though, that like you say it's a world class save, and it was a world class save, but he didn't make it look world class, and it just like it's almost like we would have been disappointed if he didn't save it, even though he was at the other side of the goal.
Yeah.
And that's why he's just an unbelievable goalkeeper.
Because sorry, like the in but like what I mean, because you saw literally as he had got back up, he smiled. Like he smiled and he laughed about it, and I know exactly why, because my main man he explains it on the Open Goal the podcast that when they talked about that game, I'm pretty sure his words were that he yelled across at the Gordon, and he literally went, "How the fuck did you save that?" And he's just like, okay, but it was just remarkable though.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. What world class, like you say. My other one, but I mean, it was similar, to be fair. Not in the same game, but similar situation. It was 0-0 against Dunfermline, and Ryan Dow, I think his name is.
I think you're right on that one, yeah.
Ryan Dow, played for Dundee United as well. But the game was 0-0, and I actually watched this on YouTube last night just to remind myself. The game was 0-0, and Ryan Dow similar to the Nisbet one, actually. The ball comes to him and he heads it. And again, Craig Gordon's not at the other side of the goal, but he's kind of in the middle of the goal, and he gets down, gets a hand to it, and somehow manages to tip it over the bar. And I just, it was an unbelievable save at a time in the game, because I think it was quite late in the game. I'm sure we won it in the end, or we might have got a draw. I can't even. We've had that many crap performances, but it's at 0-0. Your goalkeeper doing something like that. Just think, yeah, do you know what? That makes the whole team confident of going, right, we're not conceding a goal here. If he's pulling out saves like that, we're not conceding a goal. And it was an unbelievable save. And the fact that he managed to get it over the bar, yeah. But the Nisbet one was my number one. Number one save as well.
Yeah,
so
well,
I'm happy to agree with you on that.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I was about to say. I'm glad that we can agree on something. So that's lovely. So yeah, moving on to our last note for the season review. Moment of the season. Now, like I said at the start, I had to dig deep and hard to try and find something. But even though it was technically last year's was it Ed Cup, I've got to pick the Scottish Cup at the final. Despite the fact we got beat, obviously, anything can sort of was it to go down when it goes to penalties. But I'm going to put aside the 5-1 cup final, because that's just in another sort of league of its own, because that will always be the best cup final ever. But from a neutral perspective, that's got to be the best cup final I've ever watched. From a neutral's perspective, it was ridiculous. It was such an exciting, enjoyable, and that's the hearts that we expected. That at that point, we went toe to toe with the champions of Scotland at that point, and we were we were inches away, from the actual from the cup itself. To come from 2-0 down, to make it 2-2, take it into extra time, go 3-2 down, 3-3. It was such a brilliant final. And like I said there, despite the fact that we lost, I think that's been the only time of the season that I was proud as nails to actually become myself a Hearts fan, because that's in fact, I would maybe go as far to say that's probably the best we've played all of the campaign, because and you will appreciate as well that the fact that the only thing that 80 fucking White did all season was win a penalty, which it's wonders never cease. But yeah, for me, that was probably my moment of the season, mate.
Yeah, it's funny because that game, I enjoyed watching that game, just as well as you saying there. I thought it was a fantastic game to watch, but I don't know if it's just the typical Hearts fan in me, but I was just so frustrated with the first half, because the way the game unfolded, if we'd had a go at them in the first half, we could have had that one and it wouldn't have gone to penalties. That's my only frustration. But it was a bloody good game of football. And the way that it's easy to look back at it now and say, if only we'd played well in the first half. But yeah, as the game was unfolding, it was one of those where you're just like, we're still in this. And then it goes to penalties and you're thinking, right, we're not far away here. This could actually happen. And yeah, it was a ridiculous cup final, let's be honest. I don't really think Celtic deserve to win it, but penalties are penalties. Can go either way. In terms of my moment of the season was a bit more put a smile on my face rather than a game. I sent you in the message about the moment of the season either being an on-field or an off-field moment. And I had a feeling you were going to go for a game, right? I had a feeling that there was something about it. I was like, he's going to pick a game or a goal. I was thinking
any other Hearts fan would, yeah, exactly.
No. Listen, I was expecting you to pick an Andy Halliday goal or something like that.
That's a different episode. That's going to be a long, dedicated episode for young Andy Halliday there. So don't you think otherwise, sir? In time.
So my moment of the season is to put to some context is now, for whatever reason this season we seem to have a bit of beef with Alloa, all things Alloa Athletic, after they basically said when we got relegated or demoted rather, they should take their medicine and get on with it. Now, my moment of the season is when Josh Giannelli runs the entire length of the pitch against Alloa, scores a goal, and then from the touchline, all you hear is, "There's your fucking medicine." Now, I don't know if it was ever confirmed who it was that said it, whether it was Gary Locke or Robbie Nielsen. I don't know if Gary Locke was on the touchline that day, probably not, but that for me, I was just like, yes, fucking get it up, you. Like, and it might be petty, it might be, and at the end of the day, it's Alloa Athletic, and the fact that we even have any
we're Hearts
sort
fans. We're always at it, petty, mate, so it's fine.
It's just, and obviously, with no fans being in the stadium, it was so clear. There's your fucking medicine. I was like, do you know what? If Robbie Nielsen was the one that said it, I think there was a rumour that it was him, but I'm not too sure if it was ever confirmed who actually said it. But if that was Robbie Nielsen, I'm like, do you know what, mate? You've just gone up in my estimations. I'll take a season of absolute awful football if that's the sort of petty behaviour you're going to dish out to people.
I like it, mate.
That for me, it was just, you know what it was? It was just the fingers up to Alloa, shut up, sit down, you little irrelevant football club. And I just enjoyed that very much. But yeah, hopefully we never have to play Alloa ever again.
Yeah, well, hopefully not, unless it's the season after next season, eh? But no, well, that's actually not a bad show. So just to recap, goal of the season, I went for Stephen Kingsley's free kick against Dundee. And was yours the same, Alan, or?
Was indeed. So yes, it was.
Lovely. Player of the season, we both agreed that it was Craig Gordon, but you obviously made the case for the boys as well, which is absolutely understandable as well. And like we said, we will put that to a vote through our followers as well on the Twitter page, so we'll get that up later this evening. And I mean, whatever time you're watching this, it might be like a few days on, but we will put that on. It being Wednesday the 12th, so just keep that in mind. Save of the season, I went for Kevin Nisbet's header in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup. You went for either the 1-1 or the 0-0 draw against Dunfermline. Was that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, Nisbet was on my list, but yeah, the Ryan Dow one for me just tips it just ever so slightly.
Nice one, mate. Nice one. And moment of the season for me was the Scottish Cup final, and Alan's moment of the season, take your fucking medicine. Which two of them, I would say they're quite sort of read the good in their own right. So yeah, that is.
I was just going to say I might not make a Twitter poll for that one because I think I know the people of Twitter will probably opt for the "There's your fucking medicine" rather than a game of football. I think that says it all about Hearts fans on social media.
Probably, no, I do agree as well, mate. But so yeah, that has been thankfully our season review, and we don't ever have to talk about this shite ever again in this shitey season until next week. So yes, on that note, guys, as always, we appreciate you guys as well being watching the podcast and the episodes as well, and we do thank everyone as well for subscribing. We went up to 32 subscribers, and we're extremely happy about that. Again, I've said it plenty of times in my own channel as well, but every single subscription is appreciated, guys. So honestly, keep those subscriptions coming thick and fast. So yeah, if you are a fan of the Since I Was Young podcast, please think about subscribing and hit that like button if you did enjoy, as I said, the video as well. And if you want to get involved in the episode topics as such, please do get in contact. If you want to comment on the video itself, you can, and equally you can get onto our Twitter page. It's SIWY Pod on Twitter. And have I actually said that right, Alan? Have I actually said that right?
You have. It's taken you to the last episode of the season, but you've got it.
It's only taken me 7 episodes, so not too shabby. So yeah, you can get in contact with us through that as well, and also you can get in contact with Alan on his personal Twitter page and my YouTube page, What You Was Doing. So yeah, as always, guys, thank you very much for watching the podcast, and Alan, always a pleasure, sir. And until next week, like you just said, they have to talk about this shite ever again.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. No, the pleasure's all mine. It's nice to put this season in the bin and move on.
Absolutely. And just to end on that note, take your fucking medicine. Bye for now.